Here with another video, and we're going to talk about the Star Wars celebration taking place in Japan. And there's a lot to unpack here, a lot of different stuff to talk about. There's plenty of everything from ideas that might kind of work but probably won't, to ultra cringe, to some things that just don't even make any sense, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So a couple of trailers got released. Let's talk about it. Let's start off with the Mandalorian and Grogu. Obviously I can't show you the trailer, but I can show you a couple screenshots. It's basically, they just give you two scenes, essentially, anyway, so let's take a look here. We know from the first trailer that came out that they have this whole big scene where Mandalorian and Grogu go to some sort of Imperial outpost. They take on some AT-ATs, they go down a big hill, big mountain with Skywalker or whatever, AT-RT, and then they essentially take them on, I guess, and this one shows Mando going inside of one, and there's kind of like a hallway scene. And they just keep doing that thematically, and it's like goes through, you know, the view from the neck of the walker. And so there's a couple things that are kind of weird here. One is the walkers are walking like right along the side of a cliff on a planet that doesn't seem to have much. I don't know what their mission could possibly be, why they're so equipped, why there's so many bodies in there. Like Mando kills like 20 dudes. The stormtroopers look really incompetent, like more than normal even, and that's kind of been a Disney theme. They were in Book of Boba Fett, they were just the most cartoonish Wile E. Coyote stormtroopers ever, so this isn't anything new for Disney. The other thing I want to mention too, just before we go any further, is why does Disney keep doing this where they release these trailers at celebrations, people film them all grainy and crappy with their phone, and then that's the first experience that the general public gets with their trailer? Why would you want that? Why don't you just release the trailer? Why don't you just release it? Or at the very least, release it the next day. I know like that's part of the draw of going to celebration is you see the trailers. But ultimately, you can see them anyway. They might be kind of grainy, right? But you can see basically what's going to happen in this movie anyway. So why wouldn't they just release it? It's really dumb. They still haven't released the first one from whatever it was, like a year ago. Like, maybe just release them in high quality so this isn't what we're looking at for our first impressions. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. The other thing it shows is Sigourney Weaver, who's not only a pilot, but is also someone who's higher ranking in the New Republic, and she's sending Mando on a mission. We don't know if the mission is this one with the Imperials, or if it has something to do with Rhoda the Hutt, which we know now, based on this trailer, is in this. And so I'm not really sure, but it looks as though Mandalorian is now working for the New Republic, with more babysitting with Grogu. And then it shows a clip of him walking with Zeb and Baby Yoda, and it looks like the same outpost that was in Season 3, where there was all the New Republic X-Wing fighters and stuff. And this is Season 4, guys. That's what this is. This is just Season 4. It looks like a television show when you watch the trailer. Some of that might be the graininess. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. But it does look like a television show, even when it shows the AT-ST falling down and falling down the cliff. It's a little bit TV show-ish, and you can kind of tell. And what's kind of frustrating, I would think, for people with that would be, is like you have a Disney Plus account you already pay for, and now they're asking you to go to the theater to see Mandalorian Season 4 and pay extra money. Like, do they not think people are going to notice that? Then there's this part in it where Baby Yoda literally, it shows him falling into the water and then swimming, like, with ease. So I don't know what's going on. Like, is this a baby or isn't it? Right? Like, it's very confusing because on one hand, he gargles and pukes and coos and can hardly walk. And then on the other end, he's like the most powerful force user ever. And then here he's just swimming. And it's just, it's a lot of Grogu. He should have stayed with Luke. That would have made much more sense. Put him over here, bring him out later. Instead, it's just Grogu, Grogu, Grogu. And Grogu is not a character. Grogu is a literal plot device. And every time Mando got in trouble in the first 3 seasons, or any of his people, Bo-Katan, whatever, Grogu would stick his hand out and save everybody. Whether it was from the Mudhorn, whether it was blocking fire a couple of times, whatever it is, that's what's going to happen in this movie. Because that's all he is. He's not a character. The only reason, the Mandalorian is even in this is to literally pick him up and put him in places because he can't physically do anything. Otherwise, he could essentially just do everything himself with his force powers that are just insane, especially for a baby. This movie, being Mandalorian Season 4, expect the same outcome where everybody's in trouble at some point, Mandalorian's going to die, and this baby is going to stick his hand out and save everybody because that's literally what he is. He's a plot device. Then we get these dudes because Babu Freak was like one of the like couple of things that people liked in The Rise of Skywalker. It might be the only thing people liked. And so then, of course, in Disney fashion, if some people like something, overwhelm them with it. Just saturate them with it instead of leaving it minimal so that it's cool when it happens. It's just oversaturation. So now we got the whole clan of them. We saw them in Mandalorian Season 3, and Grogu's hugging them, and it's very corny. And they live at the bottom of a building, and what's his name? Grief, or whatever his name is. He's down on his hands and knees talking to them, and it's just, ugh. Babu Freak, yes, he was kind of cool in The Rise. I'll give them that. This cool little machine guy, electronics guy, computer guy, mechanic guy. Oh, you guys thought he was cool? That's the thing you liked? Oh, let's just put them everywhere now. Oh, they do that with everything. That's like Filoni's thing. And then we have what appears to be Rhoda the Hutt, and this would kind of confirm, like, the plot of this Season 4, converted into a movie, is Embo, who was like this bounty hunter that surfed on his hat. Yes, surfed on his hat, trying to be Legolas from Lord of the Rings, because, you know, Ahsoka the White, and, it's just, everything's just a cheap version of something else. But anyways, and he rides around on his hat down snowy mountains, and he's trying to kill Padme or whatever it was in the Clone Wars. Anyways, he's after Rhoda the Hutt, and the plot line is that the Mandalorian has to protect Rhoda the Hutt from Embo. Somebody hired him to do that. I don't know who it is. Could be the New Republic, could be somebody else, who knows. But it's a plot of a TV show. Like, it's not that compelling. It's not a galaxy-wide thing. It's just an individual little thing, right? Which they never should do this in movie form. But whatever, that's my opinion. Anyway, he's like this muscly guy. I don't know. I like my space slugs like Jabba to be gross and fat. That's what makes them interesting. And I don't want to see a whole bunch of them. And I don't want to see all the diversity within the Hutts. And we do different things. And we're, you know, I don't want to see so many Hutts. There's too many Hutts. The Clone Wars, throughout all these TV shows, all these series, just Hutts. I'm bored of Hutts. I like things in Star Wars that are really cool, like I mentioned with the Babu Frick stuff. They need to be minimal. They just pump and pump and pump this stuff until it's meaningless and just generic. It needs to be rare and cool. Jabba was rare and cool. Even though I said in my last video I was looking forward to seeing the deleted scene of Jabba in the original Star Wars, and I wanted to see that. Ultimately, it made sense that was taken out, even from the perspective of, I know it was a guy, not a space slug, but even from this perspective of that you only see Jabba for this brief period of time. That's what makes it cool. When it's just everywhere. It's like now we have Rancors everywhere. Baby Rancors in Clone Wars. Boba Fett's riding a Rancor. It's just Rancor. And it takes away from the coolness of the original Rancor. And it seems to be because they just can't think of any new ideas. And so they just oversaturate with what they already have. And it's just kind of lame. And they've done this before. There was 2 other like muscly Hutts that Disney put out there. There was Boku and Gracchus. I think Gracchus was the one that knocked Luke out, like punched him in the head or whatever on Coruscant. And Boku. And these guys are like muscly Hutts. And again, it's just more Hutts. It's just Hutts everywhere. And then there's that one Hutt who's like I guess they're all non-binary, but it's like the purple Hutt or whatever, Mama the Hutt. And this is what Dave does. And again, you guys are going to be, oh, you're nitpicking. No, I don't. I want it to remain cool. I want Jabba the Hutt to be cool. I don't want Jabba the Hutt to just be part of this massive clan of 500 Hutts, and we see them in everything. And he's like a gladiator, I guess. This Rhoda guy turned into a gladiator. He was the little baby in the Clone Wars that they saved already once. The other thing about this that's kind of weird is the Mandalorian is protecting him from Embo. But what's been going on for the last, 20 or 30 years? Has he been, attacked? Or, were bounty hunters after him that whole time? If so, then the Mandalorian's just another guy doing another thing that 50 other million dudes have done, which is lame. And if he wasn't being sought after, why wouldn't he have been? Why was he sought after by the Empire or whoever it was in the Clone Wars? I can't remember. and then wasn't for 20, 30 years and now is again? How does that work? So it's either way, it's kind of a strange plot line to have. And then we just get into some major cringe fest here.
It's a real Grogu here in Tokyo. Back in the game, yeah.
I never in a million years thought that like Star Wars would become this like weird baby and like and I've talked about this before, like every show it seems there's a child that's being protected, whether it's Omega, whether it's Leia, whether it's Grogu, whether it's whoever, there's always like a baby around. And this started with Dave in the Clone Wars. He did a lot of this stuff. Protect the baby, protect the child. And it's gotten so over the top that now we're doing like cuckoo baby goo goo presentations on stage at Celebration for this plot device that isn't even a character. And Pedro Pascal is dressed up like an idiot. And I don't know what he's doing with these boots. Like, what are you doing? Are those his Mando boots? And he's wearing shorts and a boomer 80s awful looking button up that's way too big for him. Guys, like, did you really, like, when you thought, like, 15 years ago, were you like, yeah, you know, I can really picture, like, that there's this baby plot device Yoda character or whatever, some baby, and that they're at Star Wars Celebration, they're doing, like, weird, cringe, goo-goo fests with it on stage. It's just, why? And then Star Wars put this out where it says, this is where the fun begins. The chosen one, Hayden Christensen, has returned to the Star Wars Celebration live stage. And this just is another microcosm of Disney, right? So Anakin sells, Vader sells. So just oversaturate. Put Vader in everything. Whether it's Rogue One, whether it's Kenobi, whether it's all the video games, whether it's this, whether it's that, put him in everything. I suspect he's going to be in Andor Season 2 for a brief moment. I could be wrong, but it looks like that's probably going to happen. Put him in everything. Put Anakin in everything. It's oversaturating to the point where it isn't cool anymore. Vader got like, what did Vader get? Like 23 minutes of total screen time in the original trilogy, something like that? Was it 23 or? I can't remember exactly, but it was a low amount. That's what made it cool. It's too much. It ruins it. That's what Dave and these people don't understand. It waters it down. It's like anything. It's a watered down beverage, right? The beverage was really tasty and yummy at first, and then they started watering it down with too much of the same crap. And now it just sucks. This whole thing with Ahsoka Season 2 is to retcon what the Chosen One means, right? Because they screwed up, right? That's what they're bringing in the Mortis gods, and they're going to turn Anakin into the Father and all that stuff, because here you see Star Wars still calling him the Chosen One. Well, he wasn't the Chosen One, because Palpatine didn't die. Palpatine was a clone. And they say, oh, well, he didn't have any powers. Yes, he did. Look what he did. Even before he sucked the dyad power or whatever, which how did he do that if he had no power? He lifted like 10,000 ships out of the crust of a planet, which is the biggest force-wielding thing we've ever seen. Ever. Even more than Grogu, actually, now that I think about it. And he was a decrepit, and he apparently had no power. And then after that, he had enough power to suck their dyad power. How did you do that if you had no power? So he didn't balance the Force. Palpatine was still alive and still very powerful and building ships and doing all these things. So now what do we do? Oh no, we screwed up. We screwed up because we were making Star Wars and we don't know anything about it. What do we do? Bring back the Mortis gods, and then we'll twist this around, and we'll try to make the audience believe that he's the Chosen One because he's the Father now, even though Rey killed Palpatine and technically brought balance to the Force, but it doesn't matter because, you know, whatever, and balance of the Force. Oh wait, it's not actually getting rid of the dark side like the Jedi said for the entirety of George's movies. It's equal. It's yin and yang. Yeah, that's what it is. It's just to explain our stupid mistakes. Yeah, good job. Yay. So dumb. The other thing about the Anakin usage might possibly be that they're like, he is getting older and you can tell looking at him. And maybe they're like, oh, we gotta suck as much out of this as we possibly can because he's gonna get too old and it's not gonna work and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, and even in Kenobi, the de-aging was awful. He looked way too old in that little lightsaber duel they were doing. It looked terrible. But it's like, why don't you just few and far between? Make it cool. Right? Make it cool. Don't oversaturate the audience with this stuff. Nobody wants that. Vader's cool because he's not there all the time. Anakin's cool because he's not there. Like, they're oversaturating it. And it started with the Clone Wars. And it keeps going. And that's Dave's thing. It's just like, just oversaturate us with stuff that that was once cool to the point where it's just no longer cool and rare anymore. It's just, it is what it is.
That rumor is 100% true.
So Ryan Gosling is going to star in Star Wars Starfighter, which takes place 5 or 6 years after the Rise of Skywalker. Now, why would they do that? Why would you pick this point in time? Now, everything else they put in, they've lumped into this, 30-year period, and we're going to get into some more stuff which they're lumping in, because that's all they do is pack everything into this one era where they can cameo fest everything. Why would you pick this time period? Why wouldn't you go like 100 years out? Why wouldn't you go way far away so there's no connection? I think I know why. My suspicion is that they are going to use this movie as a testing ground to see if people would be interested in a Rey movie. And what I mean is, look at Daisy Ridley's age, look when this takes place in the timeline, they're going to have a cameo with her in it, for sure. Obviously, it's going to be about a fighter pilot, it's Starfighter, that's what it's going to be about. But she's going to do a cameo, and then they're going to gauge how the audience felt about the cameo on social media to decide whether or not they really should go through with this movie that they've announced and nothing's been done and it's been years and nothing is being done. That's my suspicion. They do this all the time. They do these, so they float these ideas, float these projects out, and then they get canceled because there's either backlash or they can't come to agreement with their directors and producers and stuff, or writers. But I do think that's why they're putting it in that timeline. Otherwise, what would be the point? What would be the point? The other thing that's interesting is Starfighter does have the same kind of ring to it as Rogue Squadron, which Patty Jenkins was supposed to do, and then what I suspect was creative issues, because there's a lot of rumors that these guys write scripts and then they come back with so many notes they have to completely rewrite the scripts because Kathy just doesn't want to just write it herself. Just might as well just write it yourself, Kathy. You're just doing this. And we saw that with the trilogy. Who's doing the trilogy now? Stuart Knight walked, right? Other people have walked that series of movies, right? So this does kind of have that feel like, oh, we couldn't get Rogue Squadron to work, so we're going to do this instead. It does kind of have that feel, which is a little bit kind of cheap, in my opinion, but whatever. It is what it is. Ryan Gosling, in his interview, was very low-key and didn't say much, and I think that's what you're going to get from him. So from a positive note, I don't think we're going to get a whole lot of social justice and virtue signaling prior to this film coming out. I don't think we're going to see that. And I think this one is going to come out. The script is apparently done now. Ryan Gosling's read it. He says it's really good. So this movie is being made 100%. And again, it might be a nice reprieve from what we've gotten with The Acolyte and with Ahsoka and with all these other shows and the sequels about how the fans are horrible and racist and awful people. And that's why our stuff sucks, is because the fans are just racist. Then we get into this Darth Maul Shadow Lord trailer. Like, it's just more Darth Maul. And what's really corny about this is it's so close to the EU book called Shadow Hunter. They just have no, they're not creative. It's just so corny. And then in this trailer, and I'll show you a couple screenshots here. So obviously this looks pretty grainy and pretty crappy. But what this is this is a guy who is either is Darth Maul or a guy who looks exactly like Darth Maul with the red tattooed up everything, shooting like a Gatling gun out of the back of a ship. This is another illustration of some of the things that bother me. By the way, this is an animated show with Darth Maul. And this takes place in the Imperial era, of course, because everything has to be in this 30-year period, so we can just cameo fest everything. But he's shooting the Gatling gun, and it's kind of like the witches, right, that brought him back to life. It's kind of all this stuff. It's like generic magic, generic action. When you think of a Sith Lord, a space wizard Lord, you don't think of a guy who's like, oh, yeah, I'm going to use a gun, right? Like, they never did that. They didn't do that type of stuff. They were they were beyond that is the word to put, is the way to say it. I don't get excited about this. I've seen this in every single action movie on Earth. Arnold was doing this 35 years ago. It's just, I don't know. And to me, Darth Maul should never have come back. anyway. I know George was okay with it. I think that was a stupid mistake. It brought in the witch magic and the generic magic where you see the green and everything like we've seen in a million other IPs. Let's be different, right? Let's do different type of action, different type of magic. Something the Force is mysterious and you don't get all your answers. And you don't bring people back to life that got chopped in half. That's so stupid. All they had to do was to capitalize on Maul was do what the EU did. Like Shadowhunter is leading up into the Phantom Menace. There's tons of prequel, pre-Phantom Menace content you could do with Darth Maul. Endless amounts. But no, we got to bring him back to life to shove him into the era we want him in, because that's got all the big characters and we can cameo fest and have everybody running into each other. You see how this is like kind of like how they've planned this out, like to make it so that they can have all those options instead of writing new interesting characters, right? They have so few new interesting characters that they've put out that it's just everything seems, it's like the world between worlds, right? You can change things around, do whatever you want. It seems like everything they're doing is a strategy to make writing as easy as humanly possible instead of just being good at it. That's what it looks like to me. And this is where you get into like the people saying that like, oh, they're doing what George Lucas wanted because his sequel treatments had Darth Talon and Darth Maul as the villains. And yes, they did, but those were also written prior to the decision to bring back Maul in the Clone Wars. I don't think George was going to have Darth Maul come back again after he gets killed by Obi-Wan in the Clone Wars, right? Like that would be retarded. So how many times is this guy going to survive? So anyway, they're doing the Darth Talon thing. It's in the wrong time period. It's another poach from the EU what you want and use it in Dave's muddied mess of a story, the Cameo Fest. And again, you can call me a complainer, but that's what it is. Like it's not so much complaining. I'm just saying what it is. That is what it is. That's how he rolls. And we know with the Ahsoka 2 leaks, it's literally like a cameo invasion. Name the character, they're in it. It's nuts. And it waters everything down. Like I said before, it waters down the characters because they're in too many things. It ruins it, essentially. So anyway, this is a showing Darth Maul, I guess, is going to be training Darth Talon during the Imperial era. Ugh. So Palpatine's probably going to be in it. And then they're bringing back... Remember Merrick from Ahsoka Season 1? See, this is what I'm saying. It's just jam everybody in. We got no explanation who this dude was. He ended up becoming a fart and dying. Now it's like, oh, well, if you want to know who Merrick was, come watch our Darth Maul show. Buy all of our comic books and everything else. Like, you could have had one sentence of expository dialogue explaining who this dude was. But instead of doing that, they just they kill him off. He's a nothing burger with his stupid helicopter lightsaber. He kind of looks cool, but he was a nothing burger and everyone was all excited to find out who he was. And they know that. So then it's like, here's the strategy. We'll put him in the Darth Maul show so that people can find out who he was because they thought he was cool and he looked cool. This is how they operate, guys. It's corporatism at its finest, and it's at the expense of the art. 100%. But here's the problem with this, too. We know what happens to him. So we know this is Darth Maul versus Merrick, right? We see what's happening. We know Merrick isn't going to die. And if Merrick doesn't die, what does that say about Ahsoka and Maul? That says that, like, Ahsoka mowed him down like he was nothing in the first season of Ahsoka. And if Darth Maul doesn't defeat him, so we're saying that Ahsoka is that much more powerful than Darth Maul now? That took on 2 Jedi and almost beat them both? Definitely beat one of them? Guys, like, really? It's lame. And again, I don't want to watch your dumb show to find out who this dude was. That's how they roll. Just jam them all in there. This show will be another cameo fest. 100% with the, oh, we're doing Darth Talon. Check it out, man. Hey, you guys. No. Now, I wanted to end this video on a positive light because this was actually the highlight for me. doing my little rounds and finding out what they did on day 1. This literally was the highlight. Where they actually put out a action figure set with Turtle and Dirtbag Cal. And if you've played Jedi Survivor, I don't particularly like Jedi Survivor in terms of the storyline. As a game, it's a fun game. It's fun to play. So is Fallen Order. But I don't like Inquisitors. You guys know that. I don't like all these new ideas that they've come out with. I think they take away from what was the original story of Vader taking out all the Jedi. But Turgle is the type of alien that I think would have fit right in the OT. Like if he was sitting at the bar on Mos Eisley, he would have fit right in. He's one of the few kind of cool aliens. His personality, I actually like him quite a bit, actually. He's funny. And then when you play the game, you can make Dirtbag Cal. My boys did that. They gave him the mullet and the chops and everything. And I actually think this is the one kind of cool thing to come out of this. And I know you guys are like, oh, all you do is complain and complain. I'm trying to make sense of what's going on. Okay, so go ahead, throw your comment down there that all I do is complain. You make sense of it then. You make sense of the muddied mess that Star Wars has become. You tell me how great it is to just oversaturate us with things that we like to the point where we don't like them anymore and they're just there, right? You explain to me how that's a positive. You explain to me the strategy they're using that's actually being successful, because I can't see it. So anyways, guys, that's my rant. If you like this content, please like, subscribe, helps the channel. Feel free to check out anything else on my channel. Obviously, please leave a comment. We'd love to hear from you. Have yourselves a really good day.